Jake Paul, Logan Paul, Dillon Danis, a bunch of goofballs. So it just got it. So we got Jake Paul, right? He's supposed to fight Anthony Joshua, which I'm grateful that if this fight is real and it's gonna happen, I'm extremely grateful for this fight because we're finally going to see all that nonsense he's doing put to bed. Anthony Joshua is a real boxer. You know, Jake Paul's been trying to get a big fight just to get a big payday and skip the line. And he's been doing a lot of shenanigans with these fights, you know, fighting dudes who aren't boxers, you know, fighting dudes who are smaller than him. These are facts. These are straight facts. I know he's trying to sue people for calling him out what he's doing, but these are just cold, hard facts. Anthony Joshua is a guy who's in his prime. He's bigger than Jake, and he's a real boxer. He's a real dog. So that fight, Jake Paul's going to get knocked out, guaranteed. Even like when Usyk won his last fight, Jake Paul's trying to fight Usyk in MMA. I thought you were a boxer. If you're a boxer, why would two boxers fight in MMA? Makes no sense. But that brings us to Dillon Danis. So Dillon Danis is fighting for Misfits Boxing in the UK, and he's fighting one of Andrew Tate's boys, allegedly. So let's take a look at it. Dillon Danis will compete in an MMA bout in Misfits Boxing when he faces debutant Warren Spencer at this upcoming card in Manchester, England, August 30th. So that's another thing. Dillon Danis is an MMA fighter. He's a jiu-jitsu expert, right? Why are you trying to fight these boxers in MMA? I just can't respect it. I can't respect it. You got dudes who are great fighters who are out here putting in serious work. Guys like Jack Della Maddalena. Jack Della Maddalena had, I believe he had 3 or 4 losses straight in the beginning of his career. And he worked his way up through the mud pit. He worked his way up, put in that work, and finally now he's a champion. I respect guys like that. That's what real heart is. Like, fighting these boxers in MMA is nonsense. But Dillon Danis might have a rude awakening coming because apparently this dude is actually legit. He's one of Andrew Tate's boys. You know, Andrew Tate was a legit kickboxer. The Misfits MMA light heavyweight title will be on the line, which makes no sense because light heavyweight in MMA is 205 pounds, but this fight is going to be contested at 170 pounds. So it just really makes zero sense what they're doing. How is light heavyweight 170 pounds? In what world are these people in? Danis is 2-0 in MMA with a pair of first-round submissions under the Bellator banner, but hasn't entered a cage since 2019. We're talking 6 years. The Jiu-Jitsu ace had one Bellator match canceled in 2020 and was recently paired up against Tony Ferguson, now in the defunct GFL promotion. Danis entered the boxing ring once under Misfits banner in 2023, which was complete trash, by the way, losing in a bizarre fashion during this exhibition with Logan Paul. 2 planned Misfits matches with KSI never came to fruition. Now, for a moment, let's go back to Jake Paul. Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua are supposed to fight, correct? That's what the word on the street is. That's what the word on the street is. If Anthony Joshua, which I don't believe he will, there better not be no weird ass rules with this fight. There better not be no weird ass rules with this fight. I want to see Jake Paul fight for real in a real boxing match, in a dangerous fight, you know? And if he's fighting Anthony Joshua knocked out Francis Ngannou. If he's fighting Anthony Joshua, he's going to get knocked out. Guaranteed. Can you guys imagine if Jake Paul actually knocked Anthony Joshua out? I would crash out. I would have a crash out. So, Spencer will make his first walk to an MMA bout when he faces Danis. This is what I'm talking about. I can't respect this. Bro has never fought in an MMA fight before. Now, mind you, this dude is, I believe, 2-0 in boxing. which is not much experience. Danis has been training MMA for the greater part of damn near 15 years now. He's a professional fighter who's had 2 professional MMA fights. Why are they doing this fight with this guy making a debut and somehow he's fighting for a title? Like, what world does that make sense? Hey, get me on Misfits. I'll fight anybody on Misfits. Because they're running up like that. Hey, get me on Misfits. I'll whoop anybody's ass on that show. You know what I'm saying? Spencer will make his first walk to MMA bout when he faces Danis. He had boxed twice inside the Misfits ring, winning a majority decision over Nikolai Parrott in his most recent appearance in 2024. And then then he scored a first-round knockout over Muzi Hakim, in a pro boxing match in Dubai this past April. The event will be handled by Darren Till, and it will be on the same event as Darren Till versus Luke Rockhold, which I ran into Luke the other day. Hey, Luke is looking in great shape. I'm going with my boy Luke for this fight. Luke is a wild boy. One of my friends. I fuck with Luke Rockhold heavily. Luke looks in great shape for this fight. He looks in really good shape. I think Luke is going to knock Darren Till out. You know, there's all types of people who say that white dudes can't fight, right? White men can't jump, right? White people can't dance, right? I don't agree with that. But Luke is a perfect example. This dude is an incredible athlete. You know, he really is an incredible athlete. This dude can jump crazy high. This dude can do any sport he chooses. And when he's fighting Darren Till, who is a great fighter, don't get me wrong, but I think Luke is going to piece up Darren Till. Luke is a hell of an athlete, really impressive athlete. And he's tough as nails. The event will be headlined with Darren Till versus Luke Rockhold for the Badgerweight title in boxing. I don't even know what that is. While Tony Ferguson faces off against Salt Poppy in a middleweight title bout. So they're just giving out titles here. I really hope and pray that Tony Ferguson whoops this dude's ass. Because Tony Ferguson is a good dude. I met Tony Ferguson multiple times. He came to my last fight. Quick story. I met Tony Ferguson in the supermarket at Vaughn's. And he was just chilling, you know, he was with his son, whatever. I was going to fight the next weekend. So I walk up, me and Tony are chopping it up. We had some similar coaches. So we're just kind of chopping it up, talking about the fight game. And I was like, hey, Tony, like, I'm fighting the next week. Like, come through. You know, it's going to be a good time. Would love if you came. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to come. Now, a lot of people say they're going to come to your fight just because they don't want to say no, but they never come. Tony Ferguson was a man of his word. He showed up to the fight, showed love, and he didn't have to do that. I'm just a regular dude, you know? And that really, really gave an impression on me. People could say all they want about Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson is a real dude. He's a good dude. Solid dude in my book. Why isn't Tony Ferguson and Dillon Danis fighting on this card? It doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? This is the shit that I'm talking about. It doesn't make any sense. I get what they're doing. They're trying to have some type of just spectacle event. Maybe they're trying to build more fights in the future and make a bunch of money. But realistically, Tony Ferguson and Dillon Danis should be fighting in an MMA fight. It should not be Tony Ferguson fighting this guy Salt Poppy in a boxing match, and then Tony Ferguson fighting some boxer, or then Dillon Danis fighting some boxer in an MMA match. It makes zero sense. It literally makes zero sense. They're fucking up the game. You know, they're messing up the game. I can't respect it, and I don't respect it. So, and then the fact that everybody gets a title. Everybody gets a title in this thing. But then again, you know, maybe there's a spot and there's a place for this type of thing nowadays. You know, I want to know what you guys think, though. Is it a freak show? I'm going to watch the fights regardless, you know. I'm going to watch the fights regardless because I love the fights. I support Luke Rockhold. I support Tony Ferguson. I want to see them go out there and do their thing, you know. And this dude, Dillon Danis, is fighting. He's probably going to get submitted. Like, let's be real. You know, this dude's just a boxer, a kickboxer. You're going in there against a high-level jiu-jitsu guy, you're probably going to get submitted. You know, if Danis has any type of wrestling pedigree or he's been putting in the work with the wrestling, which I'm sure he has because he looks in great shape. My issue is just do it the right way. Do it the way that it's been done. You know, fighters have a certain reverence about them because we go out there, we grab our balls, and we go out there and we fight. Regardless of if you're scared, and you fight real fighters who are a threat. That's what makes fighting exciting. And that's why I can't get behind these guys like Jake Paul. And I like Jake Paul, but I just can't get behind it with how they're doing this game. You know, like you got a real fighter like Mike Perry, who's a real dog, a real dude who's earned respect in the game. And then you show up being way bigger than him and you call him out to fight in his first boxing fight and you beat him and now you're going to basically steal clout from him. I just can't respect it. I just really don't, you know. But I'm going to watch the fights regardless, but I want to know what you guys think. Much love. Peace. Learn to fight.